Hi, I'm Carlos, and this is the Filmjoe podcast, where anime talk happens.
One, two, three, four.
Hi, I'm Carlos, your host, and I am joined this week by Joe. Say hi, Joe.
Hey, hi, Joe.
Very well done. And welcome to the podcast, where this week we will be discussing some of the best anime movies that we have seen or think just hold very true to their title of best animes. More specifically, on today's episode, we would like to talk about the anime films that really left this sort of lasting impact after viewing it, or something that we just thought was amazing by the visuals, by the colors, or just whatever amazed us about the film. Simply put, on today's episode, we will be discussing what we consider some of the best anime movies out there.
All right, sounds pretty cool. Sounds pretty exciting. So what's your watch report? What have you been checking out lately?
Not much. I mean, I've had a lot of zero time down for school because, it's busy. But I did rewatch Army of Thieves, the one on Netflix with directed by Zack Snyder.
Oh, the Bautista, John,
Yeah,
what's his name? John,
Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I saw that when it first came out.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, it's a zombie movie by Snyder. It's enjoyable. It's a nice little popcorn film. Not really like
It's a zombie
oh my
film.
god, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a popcorn film. It's pretty good. But what about you? And that's pretty much all. I started a new anime in case it's not.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise! I know.
School and anime.
School and anime.
Well, I think I got to see one good film this week.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah, it was a film called The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh,
Based on the Alexander Dumas novel, and it's like the sixth or seventh version of the film. So the version I saw was a 2002 with I think it was Jim Caviezel and Guy Pearce.
oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and it was fantastic. It was really, really good. I mean, it's the ultimate for those who haven't read or seen, read the book or have seen any of the early iterations. It's the ultimate tale of revenge. And yeah, it was beautifully photographed, and the cinematography, the acting. I mean, it was just top notch. One of the best adaptations, I think, of an Dumas novel. Aside from that, it was a pretty sad week for me. I finished all 10 seasons of Friends.
Oh no.
Yeah, I had to say goodbye to Ross and Rachel and Joey and the whole cast. It was pretty good. It was a great ride. It was the first time I actually seen the entire run of the series. It was good. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, I kind of have that hole in my heart now, that empty space that needs to be filled.
Listen, man, I'll tell you the same thing that I've been telling you for a while. Watch Sunny and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That show will make you laugh even harder. Granted, there's no like side stories where people get married and all this
Right.
other stuff, but it is hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I did catch one episode a while ago, and I liked it very much, but I never followed through and continued watching it. So, yeah, I think I'll take your recommendation and start checking that out. And what else? Let's see. Monte Cristo, Friends. That's it.
All right, more than I've watched.
All right. So, what do you say we dive into this episode? Take it.
Honestly, today's episode is all about anime, and we will be talking about some of the what I consider some of the best anime films out there. That I had a non-anime watcher, sit down, watch in exchange for a trade that will be discussed on at a later point in the show.
Yeah, I have you watching a group of films and a genre that you really don't care for. So,
Correct, but I say it was a fair trade.
okay.
But you know what? Let's talk about the first one on the list. The first one on the list is about a secret military project, that endangers a Neo Tokyo, and it turns, a gang member into a kind of like a morphing psycho, and it's about his teenager friends out on a mission to stop him. The movie that I am talking about is 1988 by, I forgive me if I butcher this name, Katsuhiro Otomo, Akira. The first time watching this movie, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really care for it. Like I didn't have that sort of I think I stopped it halfway through. Don't remember the reason, I don't remember why. But rewatching it recently, wow, it's amazing for what it did for its time. You're thinking 1998, the timepiece for that, you're thinking, oh, anime movie, nice, whimsical, and fun. But the thing about Akira is that it's a more mature film for a more mature audience. Like, I will not feel nice taking, my nieces or nephews
Yeah, it has some
to this
stuff
film.
that's pretty intense. I mean, this is actually my second watch of it as well. Kind of the same experience you had. Well, the first time I saw it was maybe in the mid 90s,
Okay.
and I didn't care much for it. So this time around, I got to see it, and I quite enjoyed it.
Hmm.
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it wasn't fantastic. It's that, I know I'm going to piss off a lot of anime fans out there who love this film. It's not a bad film. It's got some great stuff. The animation, the art,
Hmm.
it's fantastic. And good God, I need to have that
That
motorcycle.
motorcycle, man. Oh, I know.
And I just looked it up on eBay or Amazon, and that freaking thing, it's a good size. It's like 2 feet long.
Okay.
It's like $700
I would
bucks.
spend that.
Oh gosh. Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good, except up to the ending where it was kind of it gave me that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't. The entire movie is very well done, very beautifully animated, and everything of the sorts. But the ending, it just kind of throws you off, and it's not really where you would expect this kind of movie to go towards.
Yeah, it was kind of a 2001 Space Odyssey ending of, well, 2001 was confusing all the way through.
Yeah.
But that ending, I was not going to spoil it, but I was sitting there, what just happened? 95% of the movie was pretty congruent, was pretty followable. I enjoyed it. The action,
Hmm.
the sequences, the story, the characters was really intriguing. It was a lot of fun. And the got to go back to the
The
motorcycle.
motorcycle,
It was great. I really,
Kanada's motorcycle, man. That
oh,
it solidified in my eyes the fact that I want a motorcycle, and I will pimp that ride out to look like Kanada's motorcycle.
that would be awesome.
It would, man. I'd be a menace with that thing.
Yeah, but again, it had a very solid, followable script and plot, and really interesting characters. The character of Kanata was a really solid character, and all the side characters. I really
Hmm.
enjoyed it. I was surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did.
Oh yeah. Also, one of the better things about that movie is that it's one of the earlier shows of like a dystopian future where things just go wrong. I mean, the whole movie opens with what was it? It ended in World War III, and now they're trying to like survive afterwards, like post war.
Right, and what I got from it, you can see the influences on a film like The
Oh
Matrix,
yeah.
as well as you can see where it got some of its inspiration from an earlier film, Ridley Scott's Blade Runner.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
But you see that influence trickle down because it was a very influential film overall.
Hmm. Yeah. Overall, a very enjoyable movie. If you're thinking about watching Akira, it it's a movie that all anime fans will recommend at some point. Just because of its heavy influence, and it was one of the earlier films to be a more mature movie for a different audience.
Yeah.
So definitely Akira, recommend it. Solid anime movie to start with.
All right. So what's next on the list?
We're going a little bit more
Actually, it's the same year.
same year. It's a very real movie that was more or less based on true events from a book. It's about a young boy and his little sister who are struggling to live post or during World War II in Japan. 1988 by Isao Takahata, Grave of the Fireflies. Oh,
Yeah, this
this
is a
this
tough
one
one.
this one hurts to watch.
It's I mean, almost like a Japanese Schindler's List.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful film. I was blown away.
yeah.
To me, it's like of all the viewings that I've been subjected to of anime this week, which by the way, this is the most anime I've ingested in my entire lifetime. This entire week, that's all I've been watching. And again, if you know me, I'm, as I've mentioned before, I'm not a big anime fan. But
Me, on
Grave,
the other hand.
yeah, you live, breathe, that's your thing. But Grave of the Fireflies is nothing short of a
Oh
masterpiece.
yeah.
Uh,
Funny thing about Grave of the Fireflies, it's made by Studio Ghibli, which amazing studio if you ever want to watch any anime films. It's their second movie debut.
wow.
Yeah, and the movies it's important to watch for multitude of different reasons. I mean, it's important to watch because of the historical reasons. I mean, it's important to watch these movies like Schindler's List, Grave of the Fireflies, or other historical war pieces because it shows the devastation that war leaves behind.
Yeah, and it gives us a different point of view. I mean, we see World War II here as Americans from our point of view and how it affected us, but rarely do we see the impact on the Japanese population
Hmm.
and civilians,
Right.
how they were affected by this horrific war.
Hmm.
So yeah, it does give you that additional perspective, and it is a hard watch.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the anime movie is based on a book by the same name, and the author was the boy who lived in from the film, right? He switched a lot of details in the book to be more, I don't want to say like impactful, but that he switched it in the way that he wrote about his sister, because what ended up happening in real life is that he did not care much for his sister because he was just a young boy, now also the caregiver for his younger sister, so he wasn't fully developed enough mentally to care for his sister as much as she needed to. And unfortunately she did end up passing away because of
Wow.
the effects that the
During the
war had.
war.
Yeah, exactly.
So pretty much you'd say that in retrospect, this is how he wished he would have been with his sister during her care.
Yep.
More loving, more caring, and not so indifferent and like, whatever, this is my.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty heavy. So it's almost like a guilt ridden.
It was yeah. He said one time that it was his way of coping with his grief, and that's how he was able to not get over it, but how to deal with it and process what had happened. Because I mean that's a whole lot to take in.
Wow, that's another level of depressing
Depressing,
on
yeah.
another behind the scenes. They did make a live action version film of this. Yeah, back in 2005, it was a TV film in Japan.
Hmm.
I have not seen it.
I don't think I want to see it. Not because I think it's bad, but because I just don't think I could live through another watching of Grave of the
Yeah,
Fireflies.
from what I read up on it, is just as impactful. They do expand on certain characters that were not really developed as much in the story
Hmm.
in the anime film, but they do kind of expand on a couple of characters in the live action, which from what I've read actually does serve well
Hmm.
for the adaptation.
I
But
want more of the younger sister. She was
or
adorable.
the
Oh my
or the
god.
voice
She
actress who
yeah.
did the broke my heart. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I freaking cried. And I don't cry that easily with anime or cartoons. It's okay, Bambi. That's a different
Bambi.
story.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Up.
So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I can see where definitely it was definitely a very mature, heavy-handed, very heavy themed film.
Hmm.
So,
And definitely one to keep in the books, just because it's for one, Studio Ghibli, amazing studio to watch after, and the impactfulness that this movie should have
mm,
on its audience.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So next up,
Next up is a movie about two strangers who find themselves intertwined in their stories in a weird way, and it's a very beautiful, also coming of age story. It's from 2016 by Makoto Shinkai. Your Name.
that's another one
This
that
is
hit.
another one, man.
Okay, I have to say, I was blown away by this one.
Mm,
It's an incredibly beautiful romantic story, science fiction kind of fantasy. This was amazing. This was another masterpiece.
yeah,
That knocked that out of the park. Also, really hit me in an okay, I cried again. So
I don't blame you. I cried at least twice here.
yeah.
And again, it doesn't take a whole lot to make me cry, man. I would be watching the dog commercial from back in the day, "In the Arms of an A-" I don't know if you remember that, where it
oh,
was like a bunch of dogs in a pound
oh,
and telling you, donate now,
oh,
and we'll be able to save these dogs. And I was like, oh,
they sucker you.
and I'm
They
like,
you got
oh,
suckered in.
dang, man. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not. I cry very easily, man, when it
Mm,
comes to movies.
all right.
But this film, wow, colors are absolutely vibrant and draw you in with their great usage of them.
Oh, it had a great color palette and a certain vibrancy that really uplifted the soul and the mood of the film. And great voice acting. I saw this with subtitles.
Hmm.
Um, for the most part, I try to watch most of these with the original voice acting.
Hmm.
And because you get the real act, you get the real gist of what's being said at the
Because
moment.
most of the times when, sorry, most of the times when it's dubbed over, a lot of the original translation is lost.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I mean, there's I forgot which one I was watching that it was subtitled,
Hmm.
and but I also it was an English dub, and it just, I don't know, the situation didn't match what they were saying.
Yeah.
And so yeah, sometimes stuff does get lost in translation, even enunciations or vocal reactions. So yeah, but this, the voice acting was incredible on this. It was beautiful.
Hmm.
And it was very humorous too. I thought it was very
It had its
funny.
moments where you just kind of burst out laughing with the characters, and then it has its moments where it hits a little too hard, you
Y-
know.
Yeah, yeah. Now, who was the director? What else is it? Because I might want to check out more of his stuff, because I was totally enchanted by this one.
So the thing is, he's not a director that has a lot of movies, not that I know of at least. But the ones that I know of, he has a couple movies lined up. He did a movie, a different one called Weathering with You.
Okay.
That one I watched, not knowing that it was him who also did Your Name. I watched it on like a random Tuesday just because I wanted to watch something. And that one is about where Japan is hit with heavy rainflow year round, and there's tale of a sunshine girl that's supposed to bring sunshine back to Japan,
Oh wow.
right? And there it follows the story about a kid who wants to cover the story about the Sunshine Girl, and then by some miracle of a chance, he finds her, and then she starts bringing sunshine back to Japan on days where people call in saying, "Hey, you know what? It's my daughter's graduation. Can you make it, shine?" And then she goes and makes it shine.
Well,
It
that's
is a beautiful movie. Again, the color usage on that movie is amazing. Mr. Shinkai is an amazing director. He also has another movie lined up at the end of this year, I think in
oh
September, somewhere
okay.
around there. I don't know anything about the movie. Frankly, I don't need to know anything about the movie. I'm sold. I'm probably gonna go watch it opening night.
So even though his first film was in 2016, you'd say he's steadily rising up as a premier anime film director.
Oh, absolutely. He's one to watch just because of how impactful his work has been already.
I definitely gonna. I will check that one out. And the Sunshine one, what is it called again?
Weathering with You.
Weathering with You. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that one out.
Hmm.
All right, and
I
so
mean, not only that, but when I was watching Your Name for the first time, because I've seen this one, I don't know how many times. I went into this thinking, you know what? I'm gonna cry to this movie, and I'm gonna be depressed, and I'm gonna feel all these emotions, right? But when I ended the movie, I wasn't as, even though I did cry. I will admit, I did cry a couple times. It didn't leave me sad and depressed, and this movie made me feel. It left me satisfied. It
yeah,
left me with the lasting effect, which is what you want out of movies nowadays. You want it to leave you with an impression.
and yeah, and a good payoff.
Yeah.
Because a lot of films, you got this hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes, or whatever it may be, and you're investing so much time and effort into this film,
Hmm.
you want that decent payoff. You want to be validated for your emotions that you've been riding through the whole film.
Oh yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I definitely recommend this one.
This one for me, 10 out of 10.
All right, so what's next?
So next up on the list is from 2001. When her family decides to go move to the suburbs in a different city, a young girl wanders into like a world where everything is different with spirits and other creatures, witches, and swords. Now, the movie that I am talking about is Miyazaki's Spirited Away. I
Nice.
apologize for absolutely destroying his name,
Well,
but
you did better than I would have done.
it's the years of anime, man.
Yeah, yeah. This is, I'd have to say, the first time I've watched it, and it's a beautiful film. It's a lot of fun.
Hmm.
I wouldn't put it on the same level as, say, Your Name, or the other. What was it?
Ghost of the Fireflies.
The Fire. Yeah, Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah, no, right.
Right. It was beautiful. It was
Hmm.
a lot of fun. It's the fantasy. What's interesting, that I, being a novice in anime, and not really having watched a lot of anime, is the immense, unique imagination
Hmm.
behind some of these, eh, by the Japanese filmmakers and writers, that we don't see here.
Because it's a lot harder to translate. I mean, like the concept, like Spirited Away, into like a live action. It would be it would be challenging, and it would be plausible, but it would be a lot more difficult to do.
Right, because this is driven. I mean, you could do Your Name live action
Oh yeah,
as well as the other one, which
Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah, Grave of the Fireflies, which they did do live version.
Hmm.
This one, this is the only medium that it could be done.
Hmm.
I mean, you got fantastical creatures. You have stuff that you wouldn't, in your wildest imagination, you could never
Hmm.
have imagined.
Now that we're talking about it, the closest thing that I can think about that resembles like a live action version is Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro.
Yes.
Now that one, you think, oh, well, how are you gonna create a creature who has its eyes on its palms? But then he does it, and you're like, oh man, that's cool to see, like physically. But that's a whole different thing because I mean, the Imagineering eye of del Toro is like no other.
Well, I think the level of imagination in film today, well, it has plummeted overall.
Yeah.
It's always been very linear, the imagination, fantastical and so forth, in a very certain kind of way. Goblins, fairies, trolls,
Hmm.
stuff like that. The Japanese in their films, they they go places where I could never have imagined.
Hmm.
Creating characters and
I mean, like No Face.
No Face, or the witch, or what was she? The one with the big
Uh huh.
nose.
Yeah, the witch.
Wow, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a beautiful fantasy film and totally suitable for children.
Hmm.
I think I would say that this is Japan's. It could be Japan's Alice in Wonderland or The Wizard of Oz
Hmm.
very easily.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it held up to a very high standard because it was actually one of the highest anime grossing movies ever when it first came out, and it actually held that title for a while until being dethroned by Demon Slayer's Mugen Train, which was it was okay. I'm not gonna say it was better than Spirited Away, but it was decent, you know. But it held that title of highest grossing
And this
domestically and
and this
internationally.
is also a Studio Ghibli film.
Also a Studio Ghibli film.
So I would say the impression I'm getting is Studio Ghibli
Hmm.
would be their Walt Disney.
Yes, that
Wow.
is the fairest example you could ever say. Yeah,
Well, the golden age of Disney, because Disney now they stink.
yeah.
Which kind of did bring about a thought when watching these films, is that we here in the United States
Hmm.
have totally the artistry and the beauty and the artistic, just the overall artistic beauty of the two-dimensional, the 2D traditional animated film. We here have thrown that in the trash.
Hmm.
That's no longer part of our cinematic culture. It's all CGI, Toy Story type animation.
Yeah.
And I'd have to say the culprit for that would have to be Disney, because I think what was the last major 2D traditional film they did was The Princess and the Frog,
Yeah.
which was
It was
beautiful.
beautiful, right?
But they kept riding that the money train of the Toy Story styled animation, and that's all they do now. And of course, other studios have followed suit. They have to. You have Illumination and
DreamWorks.
DreamWorks. They have to follow suit. They have to compete because Disney is just annihilating the market and taking over. But it's a sad thing to see. The beauty of two-dimensional animation that was so integral in our cinematic culture and history, and we've disbanded it. We no longer acknowledge it.
Hmm.
And it's beautiful to see that the Japanese, and I think the Koreans also have their anime, and they still have it. They still hold it near and dear, and with utter, complete respect. And it's a sad statement. It really is.
Also, one of the things that I want to talk about, going back to Akira, the one of the things that made it great is the amount of panels that had to be drawn to complete that movie.
These were all hand drawn cells.
Everything in that movie, and all of these, everything in all of these, hand drawn, which is what adds to the beauty of these films.
Now, not to take away from the CG artist,
No, not at all.
but think about the process of animation,
Hmm.
the neck strain of looking down at a light board, the carpal tunnel that develops in your wrist, the burning in your eyes, having to stare at these cells all day and sketch out these. I don't think that's comparable to. I mean, what the CG artists do, what they do on the computer, it doesn't come close.
Right.
In other words, is the blood, sweat, and tears that make great traditional animation. And that's what was sorely lacking in today's cinema. And I tell you this, I'm predicting this. It may be in my lifetime or not, but eventually, maybe Disney or some other studio is going to come out with a two-dimensional, traditional animated, beautiful film, and it's going to be box office gold.
No, I definitely see that happening at some point because it's gonna be like I'll call it right now, the new renaissance of 2D animation, and it's
It-
gonna happen because it's gonna be like, oh my god, this is so trendy.
right, people
It's
love
gonna
trends,
end up being a trend.
and I hope it happens. I really do, because it is art. It is beautiful, and but it's amazing to see how anime is upholding that tradition, and it's still relevant
Hmm.
in today's cinema.
One of the going back to Spirited Away, one of the best things about it is that you can show this to anybody who's slightly interested in anime and just kind of like dip their toe into it, and it's a good introduction if they're trying to get into like the genre of anime as a whole. Because
Right.
like you for example, who doesn't care much for it, you still enjoyed it. You still thought it was pretty good,
Hmm.
and it was kind of like a little gateway when you were first starting to watch these movies for the podcast today.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that I believe is that, you have very genre specific films that have their their core and built-in audience. You
Hmm.
got your horror fans, you have your animation fans, you have your action, so forth, and different types of genres. But a good film can transcend that market.
Right.
Can Like, again, I'm not an anime fan, but this reached out to me not as an anime fan, but as a movie fan, a film fan.
Hmm.
Because the storytelling was so beautiful, the artwork, the animation, the voice work. That's what I enjoyed. So I'm not going to enjoy everyone you throw at me,
Yeah,
uh,
I know, I know.
but if it's good, it's good.
Hmm.
And Spirited Away and Grave of the Fireflies and Your Name were exceptional films on their own.
Hmm.
So
Also, it is one of Studio Ghibli's most recognized work, which is why it holds a spot in the top of the list
So it's
as
one of
well.
the most celebrated films from Ghibli.
Uh huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you going to throw at us next?
So the next one up is about a young man who is bullied because he bullied in his earlier days about towards a deaf girl who was also in his class when they were growing up. It is 2016 by Naoko Yamada, A Silent Voice.
Okay.
Now, okay, listen, I'm gonna defend this movie with my life because this is one of my top films. Not the top, but maybe like top five. I know you had some qualms with it, and I know
Some qualms.
some qualms, but it is very dear to me, and I do genuinely enjoy rewatching this movie.
Well, it's a heavy film.
Mhm.
It has a lot. I mean, the themes behind it, you got depression, suicide,
Bullying,
bullying,
yeah.
which are very relevant social issues globally. And I, I just felt that it had a lot to say. It had a lot to cover on these serious thematic elements.
Hmm.
I just don't think they knew how to put it together and bring it across.
Right.
They You have a lot of characters, that really don't make sense. You have non sequitur scenes
Hmm.
that one moment to the next you're like, whoa, what just happened, and why is this character now pissed off? Character motivations of some of the characters, if not most of them, was non-existent. You have inner conflict, outer conflict, inner motivation, outer motivation. Some of these major characters were lacking that, and what those elements, what they do is help you sympathize more with the character.
Right.
And for me, a film is a vicarious experience that you experience through the eyes and the soul of that character. If I cannot identify with that character, if I don't feel it, uh, it's not happening for me. And that's where, again, the lack of uh, character structure and motivation, it just killed it for me. And it was quite annoying. And I tried. And above all else, this movie is super long.
It is not that
What
long.
is it?
It's like 2 hours and change.
Okay. It was 2 hours and half a change too long for me.
Okay. Listen, I've sat through longer movies, which I ended up being like, eh. But this one, I'm gonna defend it. I think it's absolutely great. I did see some of the issues that you brought up. I'm not gonna sit here and say I deny all the issues. I agree with you on some points, but I also don't think it should be graded as harsh as you were grading it. You get when
Well,
after you
I
finished
have
watching it, I came into your room and I was like, "So, what do we think?" All excited and all happy, and you're like, "Ugh, where do I begin?"
well,
And then
okay,
you gave it a 5.
well,
And
okay.
then some of the points I was like, okay, fine, fine, I see it. But then I thought you're grading it very harshly, so I was like, a 7 would be a solid score that I would accept. Personally, I rate this one like an 8.5, 9.
That's way too generous.
I say that's not enough, generous enough.
Well, okay, I do have some nice things to say about it.
Uh-huh.
Some positive things
Okay,
that I the animation was great.
I mean that's to say on all of these films.
The artwork is great.
Great,
The music was nice,
yeah, it has a good score.
but it had a horrible plot.
It did not have a horrible
I,
plot.
I just think that, again, it's heavy subject matter that really should be addressed and talked about. I just felt they squandered the opportunity to really bring it. Because from what I understand, Japan has a high rate of suicide and depression.
Yeah,
And I think it was trying to address that. Personally, I thought it was a poor attempt. I'm in the minority on this, I'm sure.
I know
Uh,
you are. I know you are on this one. This movie is heavily loved.
Right. And you know what? I respect those who love and adore this film. And I'm glad it touched somebody because it didn't touch me. I mean, it was trying to touch me and it was like a mile away. But yeah,
But the thing is, okay, I know that this movie is based off a light novel, and maybe a lot of the stuff that didn't make it into the movie is from the light novel that wasn't touched upon. I know what you're gonna say. Let me stop your debate before you even say it. Well, if it's gonna be based on the movie, it should be included in the movie as well. That way, if those who didn't read the light novel know what's happening as well. I know you're thinking it. You don't have to say it. I know that. I'm just trying to say a lot of when books are adapted or manga are adapted into anime, not everything can be put into the film.
oh, no, I get that because I'm a big fan of adapted films
Hmm.
from novels. I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and I've read quite a few of his novels, and I've seen the films based on his novels. And yeah, I got my qualms here and there, but it just seems like for this one, they read the back cover and said, "Okay, that's the movie." I know I'm being harsh, but again, it does have its qualities. It did have some scenes that did I found pretty effective.
Hmm.
See, more positive stuff.
Thank you, thank you. But I don't think this movie deserves a 5. I'm gonna defend this movie because this movie is one of my
Okay, I'll
favorites.
give it a 5.2.
I'll take that. That's the highest it'll get.
All right, so what's next on the list?
So that is it for the top 5.
Okay,
Now we do have some honorable mentions that I would like to go over, just because not everything is gonna make it into the top 5, but there are definitely others to talk about that deserve a mention at least. Starting off with this movie from 1995, where it's a another dystopian society where a policewoman and her partner, this mysterious sort of new age hacker who is threatening peace amongst these I don't want to say cyborg people, but definitely augmented people. I am talking about 1995's Ghost in the Shell by Mamoru Oshii. What was your whole take on this movie? I want to talk about this one because there's one scene that I wanted to mention as soon as I was rewatching it.
okay. Now the first time I said that this was what 1995, so it was about 3 years before I joined this service. Yeah, my mind was altered when I first saw this.
Hmm.
I don't want to get too deep into that, but let's just say I was not in my right mind,
Right.
right? I was really chilling. Um,
It's to say in a PG way, right?
right. uh, and I really didn't care much for it.
Uh-huh.
Visually, I was really struck by it at the time. So I really didn't remember much. So watching it this time around, I sat down and really focused on it. And yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't care much
Another
for,
one that you did not like. Okay.
um,
I,
what I think it's an important film
mhm.
because you can definitely see the influence this movie had on The Matrix.
Mhm.
The color palette, the hues of like greenings
The
and
greens, yeah.
blues, especially the greens. Beautiful layout, which is, by the way, the layout is the background. And in all these films, by the way, the layouts are just insanely beautiful. They're just works of art. You can take these layouts crop them, throw them on your wall.
Right.
They're beautiful. The animation was great, character design, even the soundtrack was pretty nice. But I found it boring.
Now, okay, here's the whole thing. I wanted to talk to you about this one scene where I don't know if you remember it, but it's about a third of the way in the movie, and the whole scene is it's the policewoman and she's standing with her partner, and they're talking about at what point does they call it ghosts? Do ghosts become special, and what at one point do they become human, or do
Hmm.
they have a soul, right? And I wanted to talk to you about this one because it's relevant now more than ever, because you could swap out ghosts with AI and
Right.
it'll become a heavy debated topic. At one point, does the AI become human?
Well, this film definitely foreshadowed a lot that's happening now and what's going to happen in the future.
Oh yeah.
What is that called? The integrated chip that goes into your
Oh, by Elon Musk, Neuralink.
the Neuralink.
Yeah.
That's basically what they got going here.
Yeah.
And is that a good thing?
No.
Really? I don't think I want anybody knowing what's going on in my head,
Mm-mm.
especially if I'm at work. I'd get fired or I would get
I get
arrested.
arrested.
Yeah. And but I thought it did a fantastic job in foreshadowing the future, where we're going, everything from a socio-political landscape to technology to crime to everything. It was very well done. The problem I had with this one was there was character exposition where or dialogue
Mm-hmm.
exposition shouldn't be taking place.
Okay.
For example, hey, let's take this important document to the president, right?
Okay.
Let's take this important document that was written by so and so, and he wrote this and this and that, and this explains this, and this was what this does. So we need to take it to the president, because if we don't, this is going to happen, and the world will explode. And I'm sitting there like, geez, 2 sentences. Let's get moving with the plot. My guess is that, again, I'm being maybe a little harsh,
A little.
but I think what they maybe did, maybe too literal a translation of the manga.
Mm-hmm.
That could be it.
I don't know. I can't speak on this one.
Yeah, but I found that annoying, and it was slow paced. I don't mind slow paced if it's doing something for me, if it's moving me. But this one, it didn't move me. It left me for dead.
Okay. Okay. I'll admit it's a little slow. It's not horrendously slow.
It's very slow.
It is not that slow. I have seen slow. Blade Runner was a slow movie. Do not lie and do not say that it's not.
It is a slow movie, but it keeps you thinking.
It does. But the thing is, the action scenes weren't like kapow, ching, what
Right, right.
They were oh, he hits him, he falls, he stands up, he hits him back. It's sort of action scenes.
It was a cerebral story, Blade Runner.
Right.
This was trying to be too far in that area, and it kept, no, it had me snoozing a couple times. I had to rewind a couple of sequences. But it was beautiful. I mean, the artwork, the design, the depiction of a dystopian future, it was mind blowing. You could see definitely where influences went from there, and where it got its influences, and it's definitely I agree. It is an iconic anime film,
Mhm.
but I didn't care. Yeah, this one I have to take a hard pass on.
That's fine. That's okay. It's all right. I'm not gonna cry. Now, next up on the list, it's okay. I'll admit it. It's a cop out move. I'm sorry that I have to do this, but it has to be talked about.
Okay,
All other movies from Studio Ghibli is going to take an honorable mention on this spot. Now, I'm not talking about a single movie. I am talking about their catalog of
okay.
movies. Not all of them. I'm just talking about Ponyo, Kiki's Delivery, My Neighbor Totoro, Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Momonosuke. Some of these movies are great. Personally, I prefer Howl's Moving Castle.
Which I've seen.
You have seen Howl's Moving Castle.
Good film.
Anything else to add?
No, I mean, I think
I can't really do a whole lot with good film.
well, you know what? I think it's in the same category as Spirited Away,
Mhm.
a beautiful, strange fantasy film.
Yeah.
With fantastical characters and situations, and this whimsical color palette.
Mhm.
Just it's incredible. It's an amazing. I thought it was beautiful.
Now, the whole reason why I want to say all other Studio Ghibli films deserve us a mention on this spot is because all of them are very well. Most of them are very well done. There's a couple of them where you're kind of like, I can pass on this one,
Okay.
but most of them are very well done. Also, another one is Secret World of Arrietty.
Okay, I
That
haven't
one,
seen that.
that one is also pretty good. And Studio Ghibli is just a magnificent studio that just makes great movies all the time, left and right.
And it's mostly from the same director, correct?
I believe so. I think it's gonna be the same guy who did Spirited
The
Away.
Spirited Away. It's the same
Yeah.
director.
Miyazaki. Yeah.
Miyazaki. In fact, wasn't it a few years ago? Wasn't he going to retire or stop making films?
He better not.
Well, I think he got that message because he's still working on stuff
Yeah.
now. I mean, from what I've seen, the couple or few films that I've seen from Ghibli or from him specifically, they're very impressive, beautiful films. And again, I'm not a huge anime fan, but if this guy stops doing what he does, I think it would be a horrific loss for the anime world. For him to just say, "Hey, I retire, I'm done."
But I can guarantee you, it would be like if he retired, somebody who has studied his work and knows how he does anime films would take up his mantle at some point sooner or later, because these sort of Studio Ghibli films will continue by someone, somewhere, somehow.
Well, he is one of those directors that he's an influential artist that infects other artists to do similar work or to be inspired by his style. You have like your Spielberg's, Scorsese's, Coppola's, John Huston's. They're gone, or most of them no longer make films except for Spielberg. But you see their influence continuing on.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a snowball effect.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. So what else? What?
Yeah, all most other Studio Ghibli films take up a spot in the honorable mentions.
Okay.
Next up,
fair enough.
yeah, is gonna be from 2018 by Shin Ichiro Ushijima, and it's about a high school student who discovers that she's suffering from a terminal illness, and her, I don't want to say friend because they don't really start off as friends, but somebody who she meets finds out her secret, and then it's the story about how they live out her last days.
Jesus.
Yeah, this
This
one you
sounds-
didn't. This one you didn't watch,
No.
and I don't think you would. I think you would like it, but I don't think you would rate it super high.
Okay.
And it's I Want to Eat Your Pancreas.
Yeah, I saw that title and I'm like, okay.
Regardless of what you might think, it's not about cannibals. It is. It has nothing to do with somebody actually eating someone's pancreas.
No Hannibal.
No Hannibal Lecter.
Okay.
Nothing of the sorts. But the whole thing with this movie is that it's very beautifully done. From the first 5 minutes of this movie, you know the ending, and yeah, it still hits you, and you're left kind of mesmerized by it.
Well, that sounds like a great device. I mean, I've seen that device used before where the punchline, per se,
Right.
or it's given away in the beginning
Mhm.
because it's not about what happens at the end.
It's about the journey
It's
there.
about the journey, like Graveyard of Fireflies.
Mhm.
It starts off with, what happened.
Yeah.
They even show you the whole, what should have been at the end. But that's not what it's really about.
Mhm.
Like you said, it's the journey getting there. And it's a great device. I've seen it in several films. It's like, it's a great film. This goes way back. It's a classic, 1955, Sunset Boulevard. The movie opens with the main character dead in a swimming pool.
Oh, okay.
And you hear his narration, and he's sitting there going, "See that guy there? That's me, and I'm dead."
Oh.
Let me tell you how I got there. And Graveyard of the Fireflies used that same device. You get the tragic ending, and then they tell you how it gets there, and it's heartbreaking. It's beautiful. So, I mean, I'd be interested in checking this one out.
This one I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend it for you to watch it and go expecting a masterpiece, but I would say, you know what, it's good, it's decent, and it's a good recommendation.
Cool.
Their whole story together, it's very touching, because his whole thing is that the friend who she makes, he's an introvert. He doesn't know or want to talk with anybody, but she and her last actions on Earth pushes him to make friends and pushes him to get out of his comfort zone.
So basically, as she's dying, she's teaching him
How to live.
How to live.
Yep.
Wow. I'm definitely going to check this one out. I mean, although I've been anime to death for this whole week. I mean, it's all I did this whole week. Like I said earlier, it was just watch anime. But, I might check that one out. It sounds really good.
Yeah, definitely a good watch. It's a nice little afternoon movie.
All right, cool. So, what do you say we wrap this one up?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, yeah, this has been a pretty cool experience for me because I've not been not really into anime films, and it opened my eyes and helped me appreciate the art form a little bit more, and also kind of made me kind of sad in the process by seeing how where the Japanese especially, they elevate the art with reverence of
Right.
animation. We here have just tossed it aside,
Killed it.
killed it. So, but yeah, great experience. So everybody, we really hope you enjoyed the show this week, and we hope you join us next week for an all new episode. So please help to support the podcast by giving us a nice 5-star rating, or a favorable review. Another way you can support us is simply to subscribe and follow us on Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Audible, and Boomplay, or wherever you get your podcast fix.
Hey, real quick. Since it was my episode, can I finish the last of the intro?
Yeah, sure.
Heck
Go
yeah.
Go ahead.
Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or our YouTube channels for updates and announcements. All the links will be in the show notes. You can also contact us directly by email to thefilmjoepod@gmail.com. We love to hear your input and your feedback.
Outstanding. So I'm Joe,
I'm Carlos,
and this is the Film Joe podcast,
where
film
film
talk
talk happens.
happens.